I woke up before sunrise that morning, long before the alarm I had set the night before could ring. Sleep had been impossible anyway. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same image, a stage, bright lights, and a moment I had been waiting for longer than I could remember. Today was Lily's graduation. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror across the room. For a moment, I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. The lines on her face seemed deeper than yesterday. The silver in her hair caught the dim morning light. And the wheelchair beside her bed, that was still something I wasn't fully used to seeing, even after 2 years. I took a slow breath. Today matters, I whispered to myself. It took me nearly 2 hours to get ready. Longer than it used to, but I refused to rush. I chose a soft blue dress, the same one I had worn to Lily's high school graduation. My hands trembled slightly as I applied makeup, carefully tracing my lips with a shade I hadn't worn in a while. Something about it made me feel like myself again. For a brief moment, I almost felt normal. When the doorbell rang, my heart skipped. "Coming," I called out, even though my voice sounded smaller than I intended. It was my daughter, Claire. She stepped inside quickly, already checking her phone, her movements sharp and efficient like always. She looked beautiful. Perfectly styled hair, tailored outfit, everything in place. Everything except her eyes. They barely met mine. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I've been ready since 5 a.m., I said with a small smile, hoping to lighten the mood. She didn't laugh. Instead, she glanced at the wheelchair, then away. That tiny moment didn't last more than a second. But I felt it. We didn't talk much on the way. Claire drove, her fingers tapping lightly on the steering wheel, her attention split between the road and whatever was happening on her phone. I watched the city pass by outside the window, familiar streets, places filled with memories that suddenly felt distant. I remembered walking Lily to her first day of school, holding her hand, running beside her bicycle when she was too scared to ride alone. Now everything felt slower, further away. By the time we arrived at the university campus, the place was already buzzing with families. People were laughing, taking photos, hugging, celebrating. I felt something warm in my chest.
"Pride."
"We should find your section," Claire said quickly, already scanning the area. We made our way toward the designated seating. As she pushed my wheelchair across the pavement, I noticed how her grip tightened whenever people looked our way. At first, I thought I imagined it, but then it happened again.
And again.
"Are you okay?" I asked gently. "Yeah," she said too fast. "Just crowded." We reached our seats, surrounded by other families. Parents leaning into each other, grandparents smiling, cameras flashing everywhere. I reached into my bag for my phone. I wanted a picture. Just one. That's when I heard it. "She's going to draw attention to us like this." The words were quiet, but clear, and they came from behind me.
"Claire."
My hand froze midair. For a second, I thought maybe I misunderstood. Maybe she wasn't talking about me. Maybe. "Relax," another voice said, her husband Mark. "It's fine." "It's not fine," Claire whispered back. "Everyone is staring." My chest tightened. I didn't turn around. I didn't move. I just sat there, staring straight ahead, while something inside me slowly cracked. The ceremony started, but I couldn't focus. Voices blurred together. Applause sounded distant. All I could hear was that sentence repeating in my mind. "She's going to draw attention to us." I swallowed hard. I had spent years building a life for my daughter. Years making sure she never felt less than anyone else. Working late nights. Missing holidays. Saying no to myself so she could always say yes to opportunities. And now, I was the problem. When Lily's name was finally called, everything shifted. My heart lifted instantly. There she was, walking across the stage with confidence, her dark hair catching the sunlight, her smile bright and proud. She looked toward the crowd.
Toward me. And waved.
I clapped, harder than I thought I could. My hand stung, but I didn't care. That's my granddaughter, I whispered, even though no one was listening. For that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the wheelchair, not the whispers, not the distance growing between me and my daughter. Just her. After the ceremony, Lily ran straight toward us. "Grandma," she said, dropping to her knees beside me. Her arms wrapped around me tightly, without hesitation, without embarrassment, without a second thought. "Did you see me?" she asked, breathless. "I saw everything," I said, my voice shaking. "You were incredible." Claire stepped in almost immediately. "Let's take pictures before it gets crowded," she said. And just like that, the moment shifted again. As Mark lifted his phone, I noticed something. Claire kept adjusting positions, moving slightly, blocking angles. Every time I ended up in the frame, she would subtly shift, placing herself or Lily in front of me. At first, I told myself it was nothing. But after the fourth, fifth, sixth time, I knew. I wasn't imagining it. I was being edited out,
Piece by piece.
like I didn't belong in the picture of my own family. The ride home was quiet. Lily went with her friends to celebrate, and I was left in the car with Claire and Mark. No one spoke. I watched the road blur past again, but this time, it felt different.
Heavier.
When we finally arrived at my house, Claire helped me out of the car. Her movements were careful, practiced, efficient, but empty. "We'll call you later," she said quickly. I nodded, and just like that, they were gone. That night, I sat alone in my living room. The house felt too quiet,
Too still.
I looked at the framed photos on the wall. Birthdays, holidays, smiles frozen in time. They told a story. A beautiful one. But suddenly, it didn't feel real anymore. Because somewhere along the way, I had stopped being part of it. I closed my eyes, and her words echoed again. "She's going to draw attention to us." I opened them slowly.
No, y whispered.
Something inside me shifted.
Not loudly.
Not dramatically, but enough. Enough to know that tomorrow, I was going to make a decision, and this time, it would be mine. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the graduation over and over again until the memory started to feel distorted, like something I had dreamed rather than lived through. But the feeling in my chest was real. Heavy.
Sharp.
Unavoidable. By the time the sun rose, I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to ignore what happened. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. For years, I had been adjusting. First slowly, then completely. After the accident, everything in my life had changed. Not just physically, but quietly, emotionally, in ways no one talks about. People don't tell you how your world shrinks, how conversations change, how people start speaking around you instead of to you, how concern slowly turns into control. At first, Claire had been there for everything: appointments, groceries, decisions. I thought it was love. Maybe it was at the beginning. But somewhere along the way, love had turned into something else. Something colder, more practical, more distant. By 8 a.m., I was already dressed again. Not as carefully as yesterday, but enough to feel presentable. I called my caregiver, Rosa, and told her I needed to go out. "Alone?" she asked, surprised. "Are you sure, Emma?" "Claire told me." "I know what Claire told you," I interrupted, keeping my voice calm but firm. "But I'm still capable of making my own decisions." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her thinking, weighing loyalty against responsibility. "Okay," she said finally, "but please be careful." "I will." Driving again felt strange. The modified controls still didn't feel like an extension of me, but I managed. Slowly, carefully, like learning something new all over again. The city looked different from behind the wheel. Smaller somehow. Or maybe I was seeing it differently now. I parked outside a familiar building. The law office. I hadn't been there in years. The receptionist looked up as I entered, clearly surprised to see me. "Emma? It's been a while." "It has," I said with a small smile. Is Mr. Reynolds available? A few minutes later, I was sitting across from him, the same man who had helped me draft my will more than a decade ago, back when life felt stable, predictable, safe. Well, he said, folding his hands on the desk. What brings you in? I didn't hesitate. I want to make changes. He studied my face carefully, like he was trying to read something beneath my words. What kind of changes? All of them. That got his attention. For the next hour, we went through everything. My house, my savings, my investments, the life I had spent decades building piece by piece. Each number on paper represented years of sacrifice, choices, compromises. And all of it had been quietly taken for granted. Your current will leaves everything to Claire, he said, scrolling through the document. Are you looking to adjust percentages or… No, I said.
He paused.
I want to remove her completely. Silence filled the room. That's significant, he said carefully. Are you sure this isn't a reaction to something temporary? I thought about yesterday, about the whisper, about the way she moved me out of photos like I didn't belong. It's not temporary, I said. He nodded slowly. Then who would you like to include instead? I want to set up a trust for Lily, I said. For her future. Education, housing, whatever she needs to start her life. And the rest. I took a breath. There's a foundation, I said. One that supports people who've lost independence later in life. People who are treated like they don't matter anymore. His expression softened slightly. I know the one, he said. Good, I replied. I want everything else to go there. He leaned back in his chair. Emma, this is a complete redirection of your estate. I know, and your daughter will be surprised. I finished.
Yes.
I imagine she will. We continued working through the details. Legal language, conditions, protections. I made sure of one thing very clearly. No one could override my decisions. Not with paperwork. Not with pressure. Not with claims about my mental state. When it was done, he printed the documents and placed them in front of me. All you need to do is sign. I looked at the paper. This wasn't just ink. It was a line, a boundary, a statement. My hand trembled slightly as I picked up the pen. But this time, it wasn't from weakness. I signed. And just like that, everything changed. When I left the office, the air felt different. Lighter. Not because things were fixed, they weren't. But because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for someone else to decide what happened to me next. That evening, Claire called. Hey, Mom, she said, her voice unusually soft. How are you feeling today?
Fine, he replied. Good.
I was thinking maybe we should start looking at some long-term care options, just to be prepared. There it was. Not even a full day had passed. I'm not going anywhere, I said calmly.
Mom, it's not about that.
It's just being realistic. Is it? I asked.
Yes.
You can't stay alone forever. I looked around my living room.
My home.
My memories. Watch me, I said quietly.
She sighed.
Why are you being like this? I almost laughed. Like what? Difficult. That word landed harder than anything else she had said. Not worried. Not concerned. Difficult. I'll think about it, I said, ending the conversation before it could go further. But I already knew. I wasn't going to think about it. I wheeled myself to the window and looked outside at the street I had lived on for over 30 years. Every corner held a memory. Every shadow carried a piece of my life. And she wanted to pack it all up. Sell it.
Simplify it.
Reduce it. Just like she had started reducing me. I closed my eyes for a moment, then opened them again. No, I said softly. This wasn't just about a house, or money, or control. This was about something much simpler. Respect. And if I had to redraw my entire life to get it, then that's exactly what I was going to do. 3 days passed before everything came to the surface. Not slowly, not gently, but all at once. like a storm that had been building quietly and finally decided to break. I knew it would happen. I had even prepared for it in my own way. That morning, I placed the documents on the kitchen table, right next to my coffee mug and reading glasses. Not hidden, not dramatic, just there, waiting. Claire was supposed to come by at 10 to take me to a routine checkup, and I knew her well enough to understand one thing. She notices everything that could affect control. She arrived exactly on time, like always. No knock, just the sound of the door opening and her voice echoing through the house. Mom, followed by quick footsteps. I stayed in the kitchen, pretending to read, even though I hadn't turned the page in 10 minutes. She walked in, already scanning the room, already in motion, already organizing things that didn't need organizing. She picked up a bottle of pills from the counter, frowned, shook it slightly, like she was checking its weight. You really need a better system for this, she said. This is exactly why assisted living would. She stopped mid-sentence. I didn't look up. I didn't have to. I felt it. What is this? She asked. I took a slow sip of coffee. Paperwork. Silence. The kind that feels heavy. The kind that fills the entire room. Then the sound of pages turning. Quick at first. Then slower. Then nothing. I looked up. Her face had changed. Completely. At first, confusion. Then, disbelief. Then something sharper. Something closer to fear. Mom, her voice dropped. What is this? It's my new will. She stared at me like she didn't understand the words. No, she said, almost automatically. No, this isn't right. It's exactly right. She flipped through the pages again, faster now, like maybe if she read it differently, the words would change. You removed me, she said. Not a question. A statement. Yes. Her hand tightened around the papers. You left everything to a foundation? Her voice cracked on the last word, like it physically hurt to say it. I left it to people who won't see me as a problem. That landed. I saw it, right there in her eyes. She took a step back, like she needed space to process, but there was nowhere to go. The kitchen suddenly felt too small for both of us. This is insane, she said. You're not thinking clearly. I almost smiled. That was fast. I've never been more clear in my life. This is because of the graduation, isn't it? She snapped. You're overreacting. Overreacting. Such a simple word.
Such a dangerous one.
It's not about one moment, I said calmly. It's about everything that moment confirmed. She shook her head, pacing now. I didn't mean anything by that. I was stressed. There were people everywhere. You said I was drawing attention to you. Her voice stopped. Her movement stopped. Everything stopped. For a second, I saw it again, that flash of realization. The understanding that I had heard her. That nothing could be taken back. I didn't think you heard, she said quietly. That's the problem, I replied. You didn't think about me at all. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't move me the way they used to. Not anymore. I was just worried, she said, about how things looked. And how do I look to you now? I asked. She didn't answer. Because she couldn't. Because the truth was already sitting between us. I've spent years adjusting to this life, I continued. Losing independence. Learning everything again. Accepting help when I never needed it before. And instead of standing next to me, you started standing over me. That's not fair, she said sharply.
No, irraplia.
What's not fair is being treated like I stopped being a person. Her expression changed again. The softness disappeared. Something colder took its place. So this is punishment, she asked. You're punishing me? I'm protecting myself. From me? She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. I'm your daughter. And I'm still your mother. Silence.
Thick.
Uncomfortable.
Real.
She placed the papers back on the table, but not gently this time. There was anger in the movement now. Frustration. Loss of control. You can't do this, she said. I already did. I mean it, she continued, her voice rising. This isn't normal. People don't just cut their children out like this. Something is wrong. There it was.
The shift.
Not emotional anymore. Strategic. You think I'm not capable, I said. I think you're being influenced, she replied quickly. Or confused.
Or
what?
I asked.
She hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. Or not in the right state of mind. I leaned back in my chair. I had expected this. You can try, I said calmly. But everything is documented. Every decision. Every evaluation. Every signature. I made sure of that. Her jaw tightened. You planned this? Yes. For how long? Long enough. She turned away from me, running her hands through her hair, trying to regain control of something that was already gone. You're throwing away everything, she said. Everything you built. Everything for this family. No, I said quietly. I'm finally deciding what it was for. She turned back to me, eyes sharp now.
So, that's it?
40 years, and this is how it ends. I looked at her. Really looked. Not at the woman standing in my kitchen, but at the little girl she used to be. The one who used to run into my arms. The one who used to say I was her safe place. It ended when I stopped mattering to you, I said. That hit harder than anything else.
I saw it.
She stepped back like I had physically pushed her. For a moment, I thought she might say something real. Something honest. But instead, fine, she said coldly. Do whatever you want. She grabbed her bag. You don't need my help? Then don't ask for it. I won't, I replied. She walked to the door, then stopped. Without turning around, she said, Don't call me when this backfires. Then she left.
The door closed. Hard.
The house went quiet again. But this time, it wasn't the same kind of silence as before. This one felt clean. I sat there for a long time, staring at the papers on the table. My hands were steady now, my breathing calm.
No regret. No panique.
Just clarity. For the first time in years. I wasn't waiting for approval. I wasn't adjusting myself to fit into someone else's comfort. I wasn't shrinking. I had drawn a line. And even though it cost me something, it also gave me something back. Myself. The silence didn't last long. I knew it wouldn't. Claire was never the type to walk away and accept something she didn't agree with, especially not something she couldn't control. What I didn't expect was how quickly things would escalate. It started quietly. A missed call here, a short message there, a sudden cold distance that felt almost calculated. Then, within a week, everything shifted from emotional to strategic. The first sign came in the form of a phone call from my doctor's office. Emma, we received a request from your daughter to schedule a cognitive evaluation, the nurse said gently, like she was trying not to alarm me. But I wasn't surprised. Not really. I had seen it coming the moment Claire questioned my state of mind in the kitchen. That wasn't just frustration. That was preparation. I thanked the nurse, hung up, and sat still for a moment, letting the reality settle. My own daughter was trying to prove I wasn't capable of making decisions about my own life. Not because she truly believed it, I knew her well enough, but because it was the only way she could regain control. The evaluation was scheduled for 2 days later. I went. Of course I went. If she wanted proof, I would give it to her. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and quiet judgment. I was led into a small room where a specialist greeted me with a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She asked questions, simple ones at first. Dates, names, places. Then more complex ones. Memory tests. Problem-solving tasks. Repetition. Patterns. I answered everything. Calmly. Clearly. Without hesitation. But inside, something burned. Not anger. Not exactly. Something deeper. A realization. This wasn't about my health. This was about control disguised as concern. By the end of the session, the specialist closed her folder and gave me a look that felt almost apologetic. Emma, she said, there are no signs of cognitive impairment. You are fully capable of making your own decisions. I nodded. I know. When I got home, I didn't call Claire. I didn't send a message. I didn't explain anything. I knew she would find out soon enough, and I wanted her to sit with the uncertainty just a little longer. But she didn't wait long. That evening, my phone rang. I stared at her name on the screen for a few seconds before answering. Well, she said immediately.
No greeting. No softness.
Well, what? I replied. The evaluation. I leaned back in my chair. Passed, I said simply. Silence. Then a sharp exhale. Of course you did, she muttered, but there was tension in her voice now, not confidence. Is there anything else? I asked. Another pause. Then, I just don't understand why you're doing this. That sentence again. Not what she did. What I did. I'm not doing anything to you, I said calmly. I'm making decisions for myself. You're tearing this family apart, she snapped. I almost laughed. No, I said quietly. I'm just refusing to pretend it's still whole. She didn't respond. And for the first time, she hung up first. 2 days later, someone knocked on my door. Not Claire. Not Rosa. A stranger. A woman in her 50s, holding a clipboard and wearing that same careful expression I had started to recognize, professional concern mixed with quiet judgment. Emma, she asked. Yes. I'm from social services. We received a report and just need to ask you a few questions. There it was. I let her in. Of course I did. I had nothing to hide. We sat in the living room, the same room where Claire used to sit as a child watching cartoons, where Lily used to fall asleep during movie nights, where life once felt simple. Now it felt like an interview room. Can you tell me today's date? She asked.
I did.
Do you know where you are? I almost smiled. Yes. The questions continued. Basic. Repetitive. Almost insulting. But I answered every single one.
Calm. Precise.
Controlled. At the end, she closed her clipboard and looked at me, really looked this time. There's no issue here, she said. You're clearly capable of managing your own affairs. I nodded again. I know. She hesitated for a moment, then added, sometimes family members confuse concern with control. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. After she left, I sat in silence again. But this silence was different. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't empty. It was clear. Everything was clear now. This wasn't just a disagreement. This was a battle. And Claire had chosen her side. Later that week, Lily showed up. Unexpected. Unannounced. I was in the kitchen when I heard the door open, followed by her voice, softer than her mother's, but carrying something heavier. Grandma? I turned. And there she was. For a moment, everything else disappeared. All the tension. All the conflict. All the noise. She walked toward me slowly, like she wasn't sure what she would find. Can we talk? She asked. Always, I said. We sat in the living room, facing each other. She didn't speak right away. She just looked at me, studying my face like she was trying to understand something that didn't quite make sense to her. Mom told me what happened, she said finally. I figured she would. She's really upset. I nodded. I know. Another pause. She thinks you hate her. That one landed. Not because it was true, but because it wasn't. I don't hate her, I said quietly. Then why? Lily asked, her voice breaking slightly. Why go this far? I took a deep breath. How do you explain years of something slowly breaking? How do you put that into words? It's not about one thing, I said. It's about how things changed. She said you overreacted, Lily replied carefully. Of course she did. Lily looked down at her hands, twisting her fingers together. I heard what she said at the graduation, she admitted. I froze. You did. She nodded. I was behind you. Not close enough to interrupt, but close enough to hear. The room felt smaller, tighter. And? I asked. She looked up at me, her eyes clear. It wasn't okay. That's simple. That honest. That real. Something in my chest shifted. Not pain. Not relief. Something else. Recognition. She didn't mean it, Lily added quickly. But she said it. Yes, I said. She did. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Lily leaned forward slightly. I think she's scared, she said. Of what? Losing you. I let out a slow breath. She's not losing me, I said. She just doesn't know how to see me anymore. Lily nodded slowly, like she understood more than she should at her age. She's trying to control everything because she doesn't know how to handle not being able to fix it, she said. That sounded like Claire. Too much. But that doesn't make it right, Lily added firmly. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in all of this, I didn't feel alone. I know, I said. She reached for my hand and held it.
No hesitation. No discomfort. No embarrassment.
Just connection. I don't want to lose either of you, she said quietly. I squeezed her hand gently. Then don't, I replied. She looked at me, confused. I'm not the one who's making people choose. And in that moment, I realized something important. This wasn't just about me and Claire anymore. This was about what kind of family we were going to be moving forward. One built on control, or one rebuilt on truth. The next few weeks felt like walking through something invisible but heavy, like the air itself had changed, and I was the only one who could feel the weight of it. Claire didn't disappear completely, but she pulled back just enough to make her absence noticeable. The daily calls stopped. The constant suggestions, the subtle control, even the tension, all of it faded into something quieter, colder. Instead, there was distance, measured, intentional. And in that distance, I had more space than I'd had in years, but also more time to think. At first, I didn't know what to do with that space. For so long, my life had revolved around reacting to the accident, to the limitations, to Claire's decisions, to other people's expectations. I had forgotten what it felt like to act instead, to choose. Even small things felt unfamiliar. What time to wake up, what to eat, whether to go outside or stay in. It sounds simple, but when you've spent years being managed, even freedom can feel disorienting. Rosa noticed it before I did. You seem different, she said one morning while helping me prepare breakfast. Different how? I asked. She smiled slightly, lighter, but also thinking more. I let out a quiet laugh. That sounds about right. She didn't push further. That's what I appreciated about her. She helped, but she didn't take over. There's a difference, and I had learned to recognize it. A few days later, I made a decision. Not a big one. Not dramatic. But important. I went out alone again. This time, not to a lawyer. Not to prove anything. Just to exist outside of the house on my own terms. I went to a small park not far from my street, a place I hadn't visited since before the accident. Back then, I used to walk there in the evenings, sometimes with Claire when she was younger, sometimes alone when I needed to clear my head. Now, everything felt different. The path looked longer. The benches seemed further apart. The world wasn't built the same way for me anymore. But I was still there. And that mattered. I sat near the edge of the park, watching people pass by. Parents with children. Couples walking side by side. Someone jogging past with headphones in, completely unaware of everything around them. Life moving forward, steady, uninterrupted. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was behind it. I felt part of it again. That feeling stayed with me when I got home.
And it grew, slowly,
Day by day, until I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to think before. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rebuilding. Not the life I had before, but a new one. One that belonged to me. About a week later, Lily came over again. This time, she didn't hesitate at the door. She walked in like she belonged there, like she always had. I brought lunch, she said, holding up a bag with a small smile. That's a good way to guarantee entry, I replied. She laughed. We sat in the kitchen, unpacking everything together, talking about small things at first, her classes, her internship, the people she was meeting. Normal conversations. Easy ones. The kind that don't feel heavy. But eventually it shifted. It always does. She's still not okay, Lily said quietly. I didn't ask who. I knew. I figured, I said. She doesn't talk about it directly, Lily continued. But I can tell. She's angry. But also confused. That sounds like her. Lily looked at me carefully. She doesn't understand why you didn't talk to her first. I paused. I did, I said. Not about the will, she replied. I held her gaze. Because by the time I made that decision, I already knew what she would say. And what's that? That I was overreacting. That I wasn't thinking clearly. That I didn't understand my own situation. Lily didn't argue, because she knew it was true. She's scared, Lily said again, softer this time. I know, but you're not changing your decision, she added. It wasn't a question. No, I said. She nodded slowly. I didn't think you would. We sat in silence for a moment, the kind that isn't uncomfortable, just full. Then she asked something I wasn't expecting. Are you happier? The question caught me off guard. I thought about it. Really thought. Happier? That wasn't the right word. But I'm clearer, I said finally. She tilted her head slightly. What does that mean? It means I'm not pretending anymore, I explained. Not about how things are. Not about how I feel. Not about what I deserve. She absorbed that quietly. That sounds hard, she said. It is, I admitted. But it's also honest. Lily smiled slightly. I think honesty is underrated. I laughed. That's because most people are afraid of what comes with it. She didn't respond right away. Then, do you think she'll come around? Lily asked. I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, I didn't know. I think, I said slowly, that depends on whether she's willing to see me differently. And if she isn't, I looked at her, then away. Then things stay the way they are. Lily nodded, not happily, but understanding. Before she left, she hugged me again.
Tightly.
Without hesitation. And as the door closed behind her, I felt something settle inside me. Not peace. Not completely. But something close to it. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A message. From Claire. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. We need to talk. Simple.
Direct.
Different.
No instructions. No assumptions.
Just a request. I didn't respond right away. I let the phone rest in my hand as I looked around my house, my space, my life, my decisions. Everything felt different now. Not fixed. Not perfect. But mine. I picked up the phone again and typed one word. Okay. Because whatever happened next, it wouldn't be the same as before. Not anymore. Claire arrived the next afternoon. Not early, not late, exactly on time like always. But something about the way she stood at the door felt different. She didn't walk in immediately. She didn't call out my name from the hallway like she used to.
Instead, she knocked. Softly. Once.
That alone told me more than anything she could have said. Come in, I called. The door opened slowly. She stepped inside, looking around the house like she hadn't seen it in years, even though it had only been weeks. Her eyes paused on familiar things, the framed photos, the chair by the window, the small details that had always been part of this space. But this time, she wasn't scanning for problems to fix. She was noticing. Hi, she said.
Eat.
We stood there for a moment, facing each other, neither of us moving closer right away. The distance between us wasn't physical. It was something else. Something we both felt but didn't know how to cross yet. I didn't know if you'd answer my message, she admitted. I wasn't sure if I would. I replied honestly. She nodded. That's fair. We moved into the living room and sat down, not too close, not too far. The silence wasn't sharp like before. It was careful. like both of us were choosing our next words instead of reacting. I've been thinking, she started. I didn't interrupt. I've been trying to figure out where everything went wrong, she continued. And I kept coming back to the same thing. I stopped listening to you. That wasn't what I expected. Not exactly. You stopped seeing me, I said quietly. She flinched slightly. Yeah, she admitted. That too. There was no defense in her voice this time.
No justification.
Just acknowledgement. I thought I was helping, she said. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. Taking care of you. Making sure everything was under control. And was it? I asked. She hesitated. No, she said finally. Not really. I watched her carefully. This wasn't the Claire I had argued with in the kitchen. This wasn't the version of her that tried to take control of every situation. This was someone else. Or maybe the same person, just without the layers she had built over time. I was scared, she said, her voice quieter now. After the accident, everything changed so fast. You went from being the strongest person I knew to someone I had to worry about all the time. I'm still that person, I said. I know that now, she replied quickly. But I didn't then. I thought if I didn't take control, something bad would happen. That I would lose you. And instead, I asked. She looked down. I almost did anyway. The honesty in that moment was heavier than any argument we had before, because this time there was no anger to hide behind.
No pride.
Just truth. I didn't need you to control my life, I said. I needed you to respect it. She nodded, her eyes filling slightly, but not breaking. I see that now. Another pause. Then, the will, she said carefully. You're not changing it. It wasn't a question. No, I said. She took a breath. I didn't think you would. There was no anger in her voice this time. No demand. Just acceptance. I was angry at first, she admitted. Not because of the money or, at least, not only because of that. It felt like you were cutting me out completely. Like none of it mattered. I leaned forward slightly. It wasn't about cutting you out, I said. It was about protecting myself. She looked at me. From me, she said quietly. Yes. That word didn't come out harsh. Just honest. She nodded slowly. I understand that now, she said. Or, I'm trying to. We sat in silence again, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt real. I can't promise I'll do everything right, she said after a moment. I've been doing things a certain way for a long time. It's not going to change overnight. I'm not asking for perfect, I said. I'm asking to be seen. She met my eyes. You are, she said. And this time, I believed her. Not completely. Not blindly. But enough. Enough to keep going. Enough to try. I stopped looking at your wheelchair like it was just part of your life, she continued. I started seeing it as something that defined you. Something that made everything harder. Something I had to manage. It is harder, I said. I know, she replied. But that doesn't make you less. No, I said. It doesn't. She exhaled slowly, like she had been holding that in for a long time. I think I forgot that. I know. She looked around the room again, but differently this time. Not evaluating. Not adjusting. Just seeing. I miss this place, she said. It didn't go anywhere, I replied. I did, she said quietly. That landed. But not painfully. Just truthfully. After a while, she stood up and walked toward the window. The same window I had stood by the night everything changed. She looked outside, at the street, the trees, the quiet movement of the neighborhood. You're really staying here, she said. Yes. She nodded. Okay.
No argument. No persuasión.
Just acceptance. That mattered more than anything else she could have said. When she turned back to me, something in her expression had shifted. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough to notice. Can I come by next week? She asked. Not to fix anything. Just to visit. I smiled slightly. You don't need permission to visit. I think I do now, she said. And for the first time, we both smiled. Not because everything was solved, but because something had changed. Something real. As she left, she didn't rush. She paused at the door, looking back one more time. Mom, she said. Yes. I'm glad you didn't stay quiet. I held her gaze. So am I. The door closed softly behind her, and the house felt different again. Not empty, not heavy, but open. I moved to the window and looked outside, just like I had that night weeks ago. But this time, I wasn't thinking about what I had lost. I was thinking about what I had reclaimed. My voice, my choices, my place in my own life. The will stayed exactly as it was. Not out of anger, not out of punishment, but as a reminder, to myself most of all, that respect isn't something you wait for. It's something you require. Lily came by the next Sunday, just like she said she would. We cooked together, talked, laughed. Later, Claire joined us. Not perfectly comfortable, not completely at ease, but present.
And that was enough.
Not a perfect ending, but a real one. And sometimes, that matters more.